Okay, for step 8, here are all of the screws and pieces we need for this step, and a couple of the parts, because we're going to be building these front axles. So let's put together this one first, and then we'll move on to the other. So it shows that we need to put that in temporarily for now. And I think it's just so that we get a nice fit when we're trying to put these together. But let's go ahead and do that first. Okay, so let's start with this one right here. So I've got that, got the one screw in, and we grab the other side, which is this, and then put that through that hole. And it says to take one of these screw pins and put it through the hole just temporarily. So we'll do that. And then of course we've got these flange nuts that we're going to need to screw on for each one. And again, I'm just going to put them in temporarily, put them through, put the flange nut on either side. Do the same thing with the bottom. Dun, 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 dun. Oops. Hello. I'll grab a different one for now. That one's not running the way I want it to. Well, there we go. So temporarily, that's what we've got. And then there's the BA6 screw, which is this one, which actually goes through the very top, the reverse, and screws into the top piece of that. So I'm going to actually screw that in a bit. And I guess they're just wanting to make sure that it fits nice. I don't know. That's interesting. So once we've got that in place, we're going to screw these in. Because now they're fitting okay. And I'll take the pin out now, but that is what that will look like. And then of course you can see in the second part we're going to grease it up and put it back in. But I think what I'll do is I'll just do the other one now, and then we'll move on to this next part of the step. Okay, so there are the two sides all put together. So now what we have remaining are these two ball connectors and the drive shafts for the front. So you can see first we need to put the ball connector onto this piece right here on either side, and then we're going to grease up the pin and then screw it in by putting it through those shafts. So first of all, let's screw in these ball connectors. Because these are what the steering arms are going to attach to once we're ready for that. Okay, so there's one. So now that the ball connector is on this arm, we need to now put the screw pin in through here, as well as in through the drive shaft. And it says that you need to grease up that pin. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to grease up this pin. because this the plastic is going to go around this all the time for steering. So we'll grease that up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that that is the right way, which it is. We need to align the pin. Okay, so this front shaft has to be aligned where the hole is, because this pin is going to go through that whole thing. So we're going to grab this, we're going to put it in. We know that it's got to go through the whole thing. And I must have put the drive shaft in exactly where it needs to go. So we have it all the way through. So what ends up happening now is we just need to screw this all the way in, and then it'll be solid. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so that's all the way in. So now there is one of our drive shafts with the ball connector that's going to be used for steering. So I'll go ahead and build the other side. So now moving on to step 9, we're now going to attach the front uprights. So here are all of the screws and the parts. There's the radius arms, we need those, and then these are the plastic parts that we need for that. And you can see that based on the drawing, the longer one, H2, is at the bottom, the H3 being smaller is at the top, and I've sort of put it that way, just sort of, so you can see it visually. The bigger one's on the bottom, smaller one on the top. So we'll go ahead and start screwing those in. So let's start the first one. So here we have this side, which is this one right here. We need the smaller one of the two. Slip this pin through. And then we need a lock nut. And again, I'm just going to put the things in. I'm not going to lock anything up yet. We can see that on this side we need that through, but we need one of the radius arms to go through. And again, now that's the little lock nut. And I will screw everything in. Now that the two are in. Okay, so that's in, but we have to make an adjustment with this one. You can see here on the diagram that this screw has to go in and tighten to a certain point, because this actually can go further in, right? So depending on how far that's screwed in. So here you can see approximately where, how much of the straight piece of this radius arm is sticking out. So I've just got to make the fine adjustment to make sure that it's like that, and then we'll do the other side. So I'll just tighten this up and then I'll make the other one. Okay, so there's what we had to do for step 9, and now I have completed them. So they are ready to go. So we're going to move on to step 10, which is attaching the front axles to the rest of the chassis. So here are the screws, washers and whatnot that we need, and we will now attach those to the chassis. Okay, so let's grab the one that's going to be for the left side. So you can see that we need to have one of these pin screws, and it's going to go into here and into the bottom of this. So let's just put this one through, make sure that one is ready to go. Get that arm out of the way. There we go. And then we'll use the lock nut for the other side. And it's basically showing that in order to do this properly, we need to use a pair of pliers and then use the screwdriver to screw it in. So that's the bottom part on, and I'll do the same for the other side. Okay, so now both of them are on, and what's left is we need to actually put in these screws and washers to tie down the radius arms. So you need to put the washer on there, and then this is all going to get screwed into the little hole that's right here. So I'll put that on, and these are tapping screws as well. I just want to make sure that it's all correct. And I'll do the same with the other side. Washer down. So that's in. And that's more or less in too. So what we can do is now just tighten these up. The same thing on the other side. Actually, that one's not going in quite as well. I'll do it differently. But what I want to make sure of is that there's some play and that the washer is still holding on. And you know, we're going to adjust this because that's going to make the difference as to how far the suspension can go up or down depending on how much you tighten that screw. So I'm just going to tighten it a bit more just so that the screw is in, but we may have to make adjustments to that later. So now the radius arms have been screwed down. And for the most part, you do screw the screw all the way down. I may need to adjust it later, but we'll leave it at that for now. But the other thing it's showing is to attach the arms to the steering. But I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to show you why. I'm not convinced yet that the arms are in the right place. So if I kind of do a makeshift thing where I'm attaching them, but I'm not convinced of the alignment. I know that, you know, obviously when this is lifted, it's going to sit different and it'll be more level. But rather than have to take those off and then snap them back, or put them on, then snap them off again to do fine tuning, for now I'm going to leave them off. I'll do the fine tuning later. and that way I don't have to mess about with it, you know, trying to snap them off again if it's wrong. So I'm actually going to leave it like that, and then we can move on to the next step, which is step 11, where we're going to attach the front damper stay. So here are the screws and the nuts that we need, and then there's the damper stay. So we're just going to attach it to the front, and as you can see, there's how we're going to do it. So we'll do that now. And I'll just tighten them up afterwards, but I just want to make sure that it all goes on properly. Okay, and so then that is what that looks like. So I'm going to tighten them up a bit more, but that is your front damper stay. So with that step complete, we're going to move on to step 12, which is attaching the dust cover. So I'll just pull together all of those parts and we'll put that on. And I gotta tell you, I don't know why, but I find this as one of the fun pieces of the build of the Monster Beetle, because it's the one thing that was in my Blackfoot way back in the day. And then you'd put the little sticker that said Blackfoot, and of course on this one we're going to put the Monster Beetle on it. I just think it's sort of an iconic piece to the build. So we'll go ahead and put this on. I just think this is cool. Just make sure all your cables are out of the way. Put that down there. And then we'll screw these in. Just make sure they're in the right spot. Not going to tighten it quite yet. Next one. And then we'll put in the body mount at the top. And there you have it. So there is the dust cover and the body mount, and it's now beginning to look like one of the monster trucks on this ORV chassis. So I love it. I just think that looks great. So we'll now move on to building the gearbox for the Monster Beetle.